So what artist are you going to be reviewing today?
IDK.
What do you mean?
IDK.
What do you mean you don't know?
IDK.
You don't know.
His name is IDK. Get out of here. What's up, everybody? It's Deesh with Deesh Don't Kill My Vibe, episode number 2. And today we're actually going to talk about somebody that's more in line of what I actually wanted to do, highlight a artist that you probably may have heard, but most likely probably haven't heard. But before we get there, let's actually just backtrack a little bit. I mean, now I know this is episode number 2. I took a lot of criticism and I took your feedback from episode 1, and I really appreciate everything that you guys said. I'm going to try to make sure that I give a better product, to make sure that I'm entertaining, because I was watching myself. I came off very stiff.
That's what she said.
And, I feel like I was just really nervous. But you know what they say, the first time is always the worst time, right? Let's get into it. Let's talk about this album. I'm talking about IDK. Now, it's funny. IDK wrote this album called USEE For Yourself. And I remember seeing this name, actually. He actually, probably back in like the Vine days. I know some kids are like, oh, what the heck is Vine? It's what TikTok used to be.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Back in the Vine days, I remember using some of his songs because he had this kind of gangster song about like 2 chicks in the back of his car. And I love when rappers talk about math in their cars. Like, I got 2 chicks plus another chick plus another chick. That's 4 chicks in the back. As you can see, I'm not a rapper, but the math checked out. He had 2 chicks plus 1 plus 1. That's 4. Okay, so I like that. I like when rappers tell you what to do via dance moves, or when they count out and tell you what everything works. But I remember seeing him. He was going under the name JIDK. And I remember listening to a couple of albums. He was really good, but he was still young at the time. It was like 2013, 2014. I mean, I was young. I was stupid too. But at that time, when I listened to him, I was like, oh, this guy's really good. I don't know what happened in between that point and here, but I haven't heard that name in a long time. But I kept seeing his name pop up on some features randomly, and then I actually saw IDK dropped an album, and it was actually being promoted by Apple Music. And I said, whoa, this is kind of cool. So I had to check it out. I needed to see what was going on with this one, and man, I cannot lie to you, this album did not disappoint. Like, this is absolutely everything that I had thought about when I first listened to him. Like, he kind of is reaching his fullest potential when it comes to this. I know there's a whole crowd out there that's probably watching this that's not a big fan of rap music. They're part of that rap is crap, crew.
There's not a lot of melody and there's not a lot of harmony. And thus, it is basically effectively spoken rhythm. And so it's not actually a form of music.
I need you to understand something, though. These guys are just using this platform that they have to tell the stories that they grew up with, and just have an outlet to go make the content that they want to make. So this whole album is just basically telling him his life story about like how he felt when it comes to like love. And actually it's kind of weird, because when you first start listening to the opening track off of this, it's like he's calling somebody. You're not sure who he is, but it also sounds like he's running away from something too. And somebody picks up the phone, hello, and you can kind of hear him just like running away, and then eventually he gets like hit by a car. You're like, oh, what the heck is going on here? And then right there, the second track transitions into this hard trap beat, and his whole mood just changes. It's like he's running away from everything, so he only knows what he knows and what he's been taught. And the moral of this album is basically finding yourself. And for the first couple of albums, for the first couple of songs, he's going to be talking about like the stuff that rappers like to talk about. The tough environments, the gun shooting, the women, and all the braggadocious purchases that they have to make. So that's kind of what that whole portion of it is. But you can kind of see when you actually start listening through this that like he's actually this way because he felt like he hasn't had the love that he needed in his life. And And you really see this towards the end of the album, actually, because there's parts where they ask him, like, oh, what was, like, your perfect family situation? And he's sitting there, he's like, oh, mama's cooking breakfast, and daddy's reading the newspaper, and he has and they're just eating, like, eggs, and then he's getting ready for school or whatever, and, he's really excited because he has a Capri Sun, and he, like, does, like, a fist, like, yes, I got a Capri Sun. That's true. I'd be freaking hype if I got a Capri Sun for school back in the day. And he was talking about all these, this is his, like, picture perfect thing, but he realized, like, he didn't grow up in this situation, and I think he honestly feels like he blamed his upbringing for the way that he is right now. So, like, in the songs he's talking about, like, like F women and don't trust these other people out there, and just it's all about you, and it's just that he doesn't know better. He doesn't know how to become a trustworthy human, because he doesn't know who to trust out there, and who to love out there. So it's actually very, very good storytelling. And the reason why I actually like this album a lot is because of the production that he actually used. So when I talk about production, the easiest way that I personally love to see this being displayed is that the transition from the previous track to the next track is effortless. Like, it's so smooth. You don't even realize you're on the second track. IDK was doing such a great job transitioning from one track to the next track. And now, albeit, you kind of have to listen along, because there's little skits in there that kind of preface, like, what's going to happen in the next couple of songs or whatever. But it's amazing. Like, I honestly tell, I can honestly tell that he took his time crafting this album and finding that, oh, this is going to be the way that he wanted to present his story. So you go through the whole album, and I think the culmination, and I think I debated between two songs that I consider to be my favorites. Oh, before I say what's my favorite song, actually, this guy has some of the most creative titles that I've ever seen for rap songs. He has a song called Keto, Peloton. When he talks about this track Red, it's actually roses are red, violets are blue, and something. I'll let you listen to the rest of it. But he actually has, like, some of the coolest titles that I've seen for track listing in a long time, and he actually is able to incorporate that. So on that track Keto, I was like, okay, what is he going to talk about? Is he going to talk about avocados and how it's a healthy fat? No. He's talking about burning bread, like you're not eating bread in a keto diet. So I was like, oh, okay, I get that. That's smart. That's really smart.
I am smart.
I'm going back to my favorite tracks now. Red is a very funky track. The beat is something different. MF Doom is on that. West Side Gun. It's a very interesting beat. That's the only way I can really describe it. You have to listen to this track Red. But the hook is actually an ode to the Big Timer song, like, can't pay my rent cause all my money's spent. That track, back in the day, Manny Fresh, Birdman, whatever. But I think, actually, when I thought about it and listening to this a couple of times, the best track is actually towards the end, the second to last track, right before he does his outro, which I'll explain in a second. It's called Cry in Church. Cry in Church is the best track, I think, on this one. And it's basically like his confession in church. And he's talking about everything that is bothering him, that's eating up inside him, and why he thinks he's not a good human being. And, this is all because of, like, the way that he was raised. And it's just like he just doesn't know better. And he's confessing this in church, and honestly, it's great. And then DMX comes at the very end, and he gives this little, like, Father, forgive me for, like, this is my first time praying, like, this is, whatever, like, the whole, that's my DMX impression, I'm sorry. But I think it's a great culmination of everything that he was talking about, everything that he was feeling up until that point, all coming together. And he's just, the outro is him just singing, hush little baby, don't say a word, Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird. And he's just keeps saying that over and over and over again. I think the next track is the outro, and it's basically back to the beginning. It's him calling his mom and telling him, like, how he felt, and it's just like, hey, I really needed you in my life, and I really needed you and your support, and I think I you know, like I love you for everything that you've done, but I think I needed more to be a person. So I think it's a very, very creative project. I really enjoy this a lot. And I definitely think you guys should check it out. I think IDK is not a household name yet, but this album could change your mind a lot. And I think it's a great basis to start off on for the new users that are going to be listening to him. And I think he's going to make a lot of fans out of this. And I think you're going to remember this album when it comes time to talk about the best albums of the year during the end of this year. So I will give this an album a solid 9 out of 10. I think there was a little bit of like extra skits, but you kind of needed it in this purpose. But overall I think it's a great album, and I really wish there was more introspective hip hop on this. Like I kind of understand that he needed to talk about the way he treated women and his spending habits, because you know, like that's what rappers do and everything. But you know, like a little bit more like songs like Crying in Church, like that would have just took this album to another stratosphere, I think. But hey, 9 out of 10, very good. Definitely worth checking out. Definitely worth downloading, streaming, hell, maybe even buying a vinyl, to be honest. I'll see you guys next time.